Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. I got images of Ryan Scow eating Vienna sausages at a Danzig concert, and we've just been talking about all sorts of craziness before we started taping. But anyway, let me introduce the crew here before we get started on our topic. We got Karen La Preziosa in the house, Craig Kaminsky with that awesome Adventures of Wood t-shirt, comic book users, that's right. We got Rob Lasante. We got Mr. Chris Allo, the King, Center Square. Nick Franco's here, back from traveling the world. We got Count Ralphus, Ralph Tambora here, and we got Steve Keeler is in the house. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome, guys. We've got a fun show for you here today. This is another Chris Allo idea. I should probably let him introduce this one. Chris, I'm going to let you introduce this one.
Okay, cool. I thought of this the other day. I don't know why. But I started going to shows in 1986. I was a late bloomer. I didn't go to my first concert till I was 15. Although I started going to wrestling shows when I was 10. But I was like, man, when I started fucking going, like there was a bunch of cool shows that year that I missed. So, like I wish I had gone earlier. But you go when you go. To me, I've always looked at like your first concert, like your first time screwing, losing your virginity. There's before and there's after, and I'm like, man, there's a bunch of shows I wish I could have caught before, but I didn't screw yet. I wasn't at a show yet, so yeah, my idea was to go back in, if you could go back in time to that year, whatever year your first concert was, what shows did you miss that year you wish you could have caught? It could have been after too, it didn't matter, but
yeah,
that was what I was thinking. To go back in time to shows you missed, when you first started going.
So I gave everybody the option to either go to that first year of the first time you started seeing concerts, or pick another year that maybe you never went to any shows and there were great shows that you missed, or any year that maybe you caught a couple really great shows that you would like to go revisit, and then maybe catch some of the other ones that you missed as well. Right. So that's kind of.
I kind of took the latter part of that.
There you go. So you could do it anyway.
I crossed it up a little bit with a fantasy and something I went to.
There you go. All right. Well, Steve, kick us off with
wow. Yeah. And you're all gonna boo and hiss because I'm not going with the rules tonight. So I'm gonna cheat slightly tonight.
We just explained the rules. There's pretty much no rules.
You want. I don't give a shit because I already did it. But I'm going back to 2000. I kind of, for my real concert, I'm going to go back to 2004 to revisit Ozfest 2004 concert year. It was a tour I saw 3 times. I think Allo was at least 1 or 2 of those shows.
Oh, yeah.
And my fantasy year is going to go back to 74. So I'm doing 2. So that's why I'm cheating. So 2004 Ozfest was headlined by Black Sabbath, who we can't go see anymore. The original Black Sabbath. It was Judas Priest. It was Slayer doing Rain and Blood in its entirety. And we had Dimmu Borgir, Superjoint Ritual, Black Label Society on the main stage. Second stage was Slipknot, Hatebreed, Lamb of God, and a few other bands. I won't mention them all. But I have a couple stories to tell about that tour, as I saw it 3 times that summer. First at Jones Beach, then at PNC, and then down in Camden. The first night I was at Jones Beach, and Phil Anselmo was rambling on his mouth between songs during Superjoint Rituals on Superjoint's Ritual set. Every song he would start running his mouth, and it got so crazy that I couldn't believe my ears. A wrestling fan like me and Chris Allo, the crowd started chanting the ECW style chant, "Shut the fuck up." And they were doing this chant and clapping their hands. I just thought, I came up with this story and I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, they're really chanting "shut the fuck up." And the rest of the band's looking at Phil like, what is going on? And Phil, of course, was wasted on many drugs at that time. But so then Dimmu Borgir come out, and I was really into them. And I know Pete just covered them on the channel. Was doing a ranking with Rich Catino, who I saw in the city a couple weeks ago at the Halloween gig. And Dimmu Borgir come out, and they performed the song Morning Palace and Spellbound by the Devil. And Shagrath just comes out and states, "We are Dimmu Borgir from Norway. We are here to do the devil's work. And unlike some other bands, we let our music do our talking. So it was a direct pun thrown at the band that was on before them. And it was just like, what the hell's going on backstage at Ozfest? Of course, what was, and I guess they must have had some kind of heat to come out and say something like that. But I thought it was so badass. And then we went to the Camden show a couple weeks later. And I think Chris was here for that because this was like kind of a history making thing. I was there and I was informed by someone who was working there, kind of doing security. Chris Kishka, some of you may or may not know him. And he goes, you should leave. I'm like, I'm not leaving. I have like VIP pit tickets. I'm in the front row for this whole thing to see Slayer and Sabbath and everything again. He goes, I said, well, why would I leave? He goes, Ozzy's sick and Black Sabbath is not going to play. They're probably going to have riots later. I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep my eyes in the back of my head if a riot breaks out. But as we go through the set that night, we get word that Rob Halford is going to sing for Black Sabbath that night. So I thought this was just it will be a great year. I'm going to be a few years younger. I'm back in 2004, and I don't even know what other shows happened in 2004. I'm sure I went through a shitload, but I had VIP tickets, and everyone from all the bands that were playing on this thing, you know, Slipknot, everybody else, they were all coming down to watch this because it was, you know, Halford singing for Sabbath, and I was lucky enough to be there. I don't know. Was Craig? Were you at that gig? You're Philly.
I was just looking through at my stubs here. I was at PNC Center.
You were at the PNC for that tour, okay?
Yes.
And then to make this so I don't take too long, my fantasy year, because I'm going to go with that too. I'm going to 74 because I didn't go to shows until I was. Chris, I think you might have around the same time. I think I was like 16 before I started going to gigs. My parents, there wasn't any gigs around Middletown to go to much back then. And I'm going to go to 74 so I can attend Cal Jam 74.
Oh, yeah.
That's my dream
Nice.
one. So
April 1st, 1974.
I don't have all the dates, but of course I'd get to see Black Oak, Arkansas, and Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and ELP. And since I'm in 1974, why not go to a couple more shows? There was a something called August Jam at the Charlotte Motor Speedway with the Allman Brothers Band, Foghat, Marshall Tucker, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Again, Black Oak, Arkansas. And then later that year, Emerson, Lake and Palmer headlined Buffalo's Rich Stadium with Leonard Skinner and the James Gang.
That's a mix.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But everything was a mix in the 70s, you know,
Yeah.
and
True.
and also just to cheat, because I never got to see Led Zeppelin, I was going to go to Ticketmaster and wait in line so I could get tickets to see Led Zeppelin at an MSG, which was going to be in February of 75, but I'd have the tickets in my hand already. And I guess I could have saw the Grateful Dead in their prime too and went to the Winterland. So that's my portion. Yes, I cheated. Butch isn't here to yell at me. Scow's not here to hiss, so be it.
You go, Steve.
I do have to just correct. I hate being this guy, Steve.
Yeah, correct
hate
me.
being
What
this
did I do
guy.
wrong this time?
Slayer did not play Rain and Blood on
Oh, they didn't do Rain and Blood?
No,
I thought they did
yeah.
part of Rain and Blood.
Well, I mean,
No?
they did the song. They might have done the song Rain and Blood, but they didn't do the album. That was later. I
Yeah.
just had this conversation with somebody else.
That wasn't so. But on that tour, when they, because maybe I'm confused because when I saw the Aggression Music Festival, which was at Glens Falls Civic Center, they pulled Slayer. They did like that off date off that Ozfest, and Slayer were there, and then they did the entire Rain and Blood album there. So maybe on the actual Ozfest they didn't, but maybe that's how I got confused.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally possible.
Were you at
I'm
that
not
show too,
mistaken,
Chris? Were you at Glens Falls for that Aggressive Music Fest?
No, I wanted to go, but I didn't make that one. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, right in
Mm.
04 is when they filmed the DVD
Ah,
where they played all of Rain and Blood and had that gimmick
but the
where
blood.
they did the shower of blood.
Yes.
People
Yeah.
always get confused. I'm always,
Okay. Well,
hate to
it's
be
a
that
long time
guy,
ago, and I'm getting
I'm
old. so
always
yeah.
correcting people because that was actually two separate tours when they actually did the tour of it.
The
But
tour
that
was in
Ozfest,
2003, because in 2003, Slayer's tour with Arch Enemy and Hatebreed, it was my bachelor party for when I was getting married. So I bring like 40
Okay.
people down on buses, and Slayer did the Rain and Blood in its entirety. I think.
Okay, so that was
Wow.
an extension of it.
But yeah,
And
they
just a
didn't do
quick
it at
plug for Rock
Ozfest.
Fantasy. Look what I got. I got Dio toys.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Sell,
look at it.
sell,
Everybody needs a
sell.
Dio toy.
Awesome. Good job, Steve.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
Steve.
Glad
All
to
right,
be
Ralph,
back.
what do you got?
All right, I was just thinking about how when Maiden, and that when Ozfest when it was Maiden and Sabbath canceled, we didn't get Rob Halford or something. I would have been happy if Sabbath just came out and did instrumentals all night. You know, Iron Maiden didn't play any extra songs. So
What gig was that now?
that was the I think it was before the Priest one, but it could have been after. I forget
Well,
which one.
Maiden toured with Sabbath in 2005.
That
on
was the
Ozfest.
05 tour, yes.
The Priest was 2004.
Yeah, when that came to PNC, the Maiden headlined because Sabbath ended up canceling, but we didn't get any kind of. They could have had all different people come out singing
Wow.
different songs or something.
I don't remember that.
Nothing.
I was
remember
at
that
that
either,
tour,
yeah.
I'm sure, a couple times, but I don't remember the Sabbath canceling that night. at
Oh yeah, it
PNC.
was bad. I think it was the first night that Bruce Dickinson from the stage said we might as well call it Maiden Fest, and then it escalated by the time that Chris seen him on the final show where they were throwing the
Yeah.
or one of the final shows where they threw the eggs and stuff.
Yeah, I got a
Yeah.
call directly from Chris that night. Chris, Steve, you won't believe what the fuck is going on out here in
I love
LA.
that. I love that
True
story.
story,
I think
yeah.
that's amazing.
I never went to an Ozfest again after it. I boycotted
They shit the
Ozfest.
bed after that. Anyway.
They did, and I'm like, well, if they threw eggs at Iron Maiden, I'm never going back.
All right, so
No.
I thought of one show and then I said, okay, that'll be my year, and I just
Yeah.
went with that year. But I went to 1977. Recently reading this book, and I've heard about the story before, but number 12 in Martin Popoff's 50 Moments of AC/DC's career. One of them was in August of 1977. They played CBGB's,
Wow.
Wow. Go figure,
Wow.
right?
and
Wow.
I never seen the pictures from it, so that was what was really cool about Martin Popoff's book. He threw some pictures in there from that show.
Ralph,
But,
how old were you?
No, I didn't go. I didn't. I
I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even go to my first concert yet.
I was 7 years old. I had a skinhead, and I would hang out at CBGB. So it was AC/DC that night. They were opening up for the Dictators at the Palladium, and they ended up playing like 7 songs as like an after party at CBGB. So it wasn't
Wow.
like thousands of people will try to say, "Oh, I was at that show," but it was like no one even knew it was happening unless like you were part of the crew or something. Like no one really knew. So I just when I think of shows like that's in New York, and I wish I could have been alive or older enough to have seen that show. So since I was staying in that year, the 1977 was Queen Elizabeth's Silver Jubilee. So I got 2 of them that are kind of like tied because they both coincide with her Jubilee. One was the Sex Pistols. They toured as at the time Sex Pistols on tour secretly is what it stood for, and they weren't allowed to play anywhere around where the Jubilee was, so they rented a boat, a big party boat, and they played on a boat. And they kept up and down the Thames River there in London, trying to be real loud for them. And a bunch of them got arrested when they came off. There's all real footage of like Malcolm McLaren getting roughed up by the cops, and he hammed it up with cameras and stuff. But a couple people got arrested, and I just thought that was like Sex Pistols kind of in their prime and on a boat, and it just would have been awesome. But February 5th at Madison Square Garden that year, there was another tour called Queen Lizzie, and it was Queen with Thin Lizzy opening up. Thin Lizzy had the Bad Reputation album out, and they played the Garden on February 5th of that year. So
Cool is that, huh? Oof.
and they called it Queen Lizzie,
Right.
Queen Silver Jubilee. Like, what a good idea for a tour. But yeah, that would have been amazing. Never got to see either one of them bands. So then for the third one, this time I'm going to go to Europe. AC/DC's on tour with Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath's touring for technical. Famous story about AC/DC gets kicked off the tour. Some say, well, knocked out Geezer Butler, and he had a new knife with it.
Losing Ralph.
Got it in his face about it.
Your
Geezer's
mic's
side of
cutting
the
in and
story-
out, Ralph.
Oh, Geezer's side of the story about them he said there was no fist fight or nothing, but something to do with he was flipping a knife open. I guess in his new book will probably explain it. I'm looking forward to Geezer's new book. But so yeah, AC/DC gets kicked off the tour with like a whole month left to do it, but Sabbath kicks him off the tour. So how cool to see AC/DC open up 7. Another one, Green in Oakland, Derringer and Judas Priest didn't have to spin. They just did a tour to the United States, and they were still in the U.S. And Robert Plant heard that they were there, so he asked them to come open. So they stuck around in the States for a few weeks leading up to the show, and they end up opening up for Led Zeppelin on Led Zeppelin's last U.S. show of all time in America. They only do a few shows after that in Europe, but that was the last time you could have. I thought that's a great one. Here's a Led Zeppelin shirt,
Wow.
but it's from Walmart. And I think that would be in a case right now.
I got one of those too, Ralph.
I would have been.
Hey, you can't beat the price.
I would have been wearing the Chris Allo gloves, holding it and stuff. That was $5,000. But another quick. Are we gonna do honorable mentions or?
We'll
Are we gonna
circle
do
back
honor-
around if anybody's got any honorables. Yeah, we'll circle back around.
Yeah. So I guess that's good for now then.
Okay.
If we're gonna do honorables, that was 3 of them. Or
Cool.
4.
All right, Mr. Franco.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, doing good.
How you doing?
Missed you guys.
Got off night.
Yeah, so this is a great topic. Absolutely. I didn't go to my first friggin' concert till I was like 17 years old. Because my mother was, I've said it before on this channel, my mother watched Phil Donahue. And there was one fucking show about some kid breaking his neck at a hardcore concert, and that was it. No concerts.
You're not going to one of those.
Oh yeah, and I had developed such a rabid love of music before I was allowed to go see anything. So my brother took me to see Rush in 1994 at the Garden.
Oh,
Not the best tour.
Candlebox?
What's that?
Candlebox opening?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, I was at that show.
I'd rather smash my head into a fucking brick wall than listen to Candle. Anyway, but no, it was incredible. I mean, I was like, wow, okay, this is, my first concert was a Neil Peart drum solo included. With it was what an introduction, right? So, so obviously there's things that I missed that, I mean, I couldn't have. The first year I picked was 1985, and I was 9 years old, so there was no way I would have been going to that. But if I could go back to 1985 and see part of the Live After Death tour, obviously my Iron Maiden is my favorite band, that would make me so happy. But in the same year, if I could have seen the Ultimate Revenge tour with Venom and Slayer and Exodus, that I would go.
pick my answer.
That was, you went to that, right?
No, I was too young for that, but my
Not too young.
boyfriend went to that. Jermaine went to see that, and a lot of the people in his band went. But that was going to be one of my answers, so
It can still be. It can still be.
Steve, did you go to that show, that tour?
What
No.
the Venom Slayer?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
I didn't
I went to shows in '85, but I didn't go to that one.
Yeah,
I didn't go to the city much in those years. I wasn't city wary.
If I
No,
could,
that's
So
so
I was at every show. I'd go anywhere, but I'd go to like Allentown. I went to Glens Falls Civic Center a lot. So I did see Maiden back in those days, but
I was gonna say, not to change anybody's mind, but if I'm not mistaken, the Ultimate Revenge tour kind of sucked for Venom because Mantis didn't come into the country. So
Yeah,
they
they
had to
played with 2 guitar players.
No, they had 2 replacement guitar players, and
Mhm.
everybody that saw Venom on those couple dates were like, "Oh, Venom sucked," because the 2 guys didn't know what they
I
were doing.
remember that. Yeah.
And the show isn't actually the show from that
Yeah.
night that Venom
Right.
played.
That's why
Yeah,
there's no
and
actual
the-
footage of Venom
Yeah.
from Studio 54.
oh wow! But seeing Slayer in '85 would have just been ridiculous.
For sure.
It was ridiculous. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
that's the main reason I picked it. And then I think, like, for my introductory, few years of metal, like I think 1988, I guess I was 12. I don't think it would have worked out. I was a very timid 12-year-old. I don't think I would have lasted a second at any of these shows. But if I could have seen, I looked up that year because and Justice for All was my first like proper metal album. So Queensryche and Metallica on the Damaged Justice tour. I think if I could have been at that,
I was that there.
were you?
Same.
Yeah, I would have died. That would have been fucking amazing. Just the set lists for both would have been just the best. You know?
20,000 people. That was great.
Oh, I can't imagine.
It was my first time seeing them myself.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's
And I
that.
don't- I
Yeah.
don't-
Not Queensryche, but Metallica. Yeah.
If I was a little bit older, and
They played
that
Middle-
same
they
year,
played Middletown on that tour.
what's that?
They
Yeah,
played
but
Middletown
when they
on
played Middletown, they had the Cult, not Queens.
Yeah, they
That's
didn't have
right.
Queensryche though. Yeah, they had the Cult, and I was at that, of course.
Yeah, me too.
I actually had my eye on. There was a lot of dates in Europe for those two bands together. Just the set list thing I was looking at, and I was like, "Ooh, they played in Helsinki, which I was just in. That would have been pretty cool." And 1988, seventh tour of a seventh tour. That studio, that stage backdrop,
Oh,
and I would have picked the ones where Megadeth opened because seeing Megadeth in '88 would have been fucking
that's the Seventh Sun tour.
yeah, the original.
Oh man, Mid Hudson Civic Center had to be 115 degrees, right, Pardo? You were there.
Yeah,
It
you
was,
guys are so
it got
lucky.
it
This
was
was
so
always
hot in
100 and
there
some
that
degrees in the
the
summertime.
ceiling was condensating and dripping on you.
Yeah.
What a dump.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, we were there for the circus a few weeks ago. Though.
Yeah, we were.
The place doesn't look a bit different.
No.
Is that all they
Except
do there is like
except-
circus and like independent
Wrestling.
wrestling? Because there's no concerts there anymore.
They have a couple concerts. They do pro wrestling there still.
Yeah.
But they did do the lobby over, and they got a bunch of photos and like a band of like concerts that happened in the past. But other than that, the place looks exactly the same. Pete.
When I saw Maiden on that tour too in '88, but I think Ace Frehley opened up for them. I'm
That
pretty
Ace
sure.
really opened
Ace
where we
did
were
the
too,
Meadowlands at Nassau.
That's where I saw him, right?
and Civic Center was Ace
Yep,
also.
Civic Center.
Yeah, that 1988, I really think like with the first albums that I really, really, truly loved in my life, that would have been, that would have taken that would have been my choice. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then lastly, to get more into my Nick Franco obscurity shit, I would have loved to go back to 2001 or thereabouts to see the band Windeer with their singer before he died tragically in his early 20s. That would have been cool because they're one of the best bands, and I think to get to see him in Norway that year before that tragedy would have been phenomenal. And the Finnish band Sentenced, I would have loved to have seen them with their old singer Taneli Jarva, who I think he became a tattoo artist after he left the band. He made his own music. So this is a Finnish band. We've talked about Sentenced. Most of you know them. I think Amok is my favorite album by them, and to be able to see them tour that album, that would have been 95, which would have also yielded me a lot of good old black metal, in its first iteration, probably. So
Early on,
that's
yeah.
probably, if I could have the old time machine, I think that would probably, make me real happy.
Nick, I think you were supposed to stick with 1 year though. You just named like 5 different years and you went all around in the
I named two.
We're only supposed to pick 1 year.
yeah 1 year and then pick shows from that year. That's how
All
I-
right, so edit out everything I said except 1988.
Oh well.
Well, you already said it, so fuck it. Let's just go with it.
Heavy metal's
I-
about
It's all right.
Yeah, I
heavy
mean,
metal's about breaking all the rules, Tom.
no,
No.
I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. I thought it was pick 3 different years.
That's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
You gave us some variety, Nick. That's okay.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll just say 1988 was my choice.
There you go.
Oh, good.
And 85 and 86.
All right, Karen.
Okay, I did what Ralph did, and I picked like a fantasy year, and I just went with a bunch of tours that was with that year. No regrets. I feel I'm pretty lucky. Some of the great shows that I've seen, and this is stuff I'm never gonna see. I picked in 1976, and my cornerstone concert for that, I pretty much investigated a year just because of this show, was July 4th, 1976 at the Roundhouse in London. The Ultimate American New York City Band is playing on our bicentennial to a bunch of limey redcoats. It's the Ramones, and at the Roundhouse, it was a pivotal show, groundbreaking. It really encouraged punk rock. It was like the first major mainstream punk show. Here were these guys who a lot of people don't really keep this in mind. They were very calculated. Their
Come here.
it was their outfits, the way they just hit 1, 2, 3, 4. That was what you heard in the beginning. It was all very calculated. They were artists. I don't care what anybody says, but they played those 3 chords and they played them super tight, and they were relentless, and it was one uppercut to another, and they inspired so many bands and kind of gave them the validation, yeah, you can do this. You can play these 3 chords and you're going to kick people in the gut and they're going to love it and come back for more. And that show really put punk rock in motion. It just gave it more momentum, and that changed fucking music. Like it or not, you cannot deny that punk rock changed rock and roll. Anyway, moving on. They did most of their set was their first album. They did do Gimme Shock Treatment, I Remember You, and Now I Want to Be a Good Boy. That was from the following album, 1977. That was from Leave Home. So they pretty much did all of their first record. I'm going to go with my next tour. I'm staying in Europe here. I'm going to stay in England for a little bit. I'm going to
You're hopping on that plane and you're just hanging out over in Europe for a couple of weeks, right?
I'm in Europe, but it's for a year, pretty much.
For a year.
The Stones, yeah, Black and Blue tour, Honky Tonk Woman, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, Fucking Happy, Tumbling Dice, Midnight Rambler, Brown Sugar. These are all songs I love. You guys know I really miss not seeing the Stones. It was something I always wanted to do. And if I'm in 1976 Europe, fuck it, I'm at the Black and Blue tour seeing that. And then while I'm in
Black
England,
and Blue tour, I know.
What's that?
Not the Black and Blue tour, I think.
Yeah,
That's
I
Black
know.
Sabbath Booster Cult. But...
That's a little later. That's a little later. Okay, so I'm in England, right? I'm going to see the very end of Black Sabbath's Sabotage tour. They were in England in 76, making up for some like postponed dates, but it still counts. Okay. Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, Megalomaniac, Supernaut, all this great stuff. These are all my favorite songs. Ozzy at his peak. I don't even want to hear the argument, Dio, Ozzy, Sabbath. This to me is perfect Sabbath. It's another genre defining band with psych metal's an excellent example of that. And then we're going.
Steve just sold 2 more figures.
There you go.
Then we're going to see Bowie, Thin White Duke tour. Oh yeah, Station to
go.
Station. Love that stuff. Fame, Life on Mars, 5 Years, Changes, Diamond Dogs, Rebel, Gene Genie, all this great shit. And then that's it. I'll do my honorable mentions. I think I did pretty good.
That's a good batch of shows there.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's
I wonder,
1976.
did Sabbath on that run in that year, did they play at the Hammersmith? I wonder.
I believe they
pretty
did.
sure
Probably
I
bigger
have it
place at
written
that
down.
time, right? Yeah, you would think somewhere
I think
bigger.
so. They probably did. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, but when they would
it
do
was the
Hammersmith, they would do
Hammersmith.
like multiple
Was the
nights.
Hammersmith? Okay, all right.
It was,
they would do,
and
like,
like I
3-4
said,
nights.
those shows were making up for missed dates, like from 75, because they went on to tour later on in 76 for Technical Ecstasy, but they didn't play those songs that I just rattled off. So
Cool.
yeah, Dirty Woman, yeah.
Good choices.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Craig.
All right, thanks. I'm sticking with I'm going with the year 1989. I was 17 years old, and I had to get out my ticket book here, and
Nice.
so these
Wow.
the ones I'm well, most of those are pictures. They're not all tickets, but the shows that I saw 5 concerts in 1989, and my picks are I would like to see. I just went with I'd like to relive these and see these again. Plus, being back then, and you guys can attest to this too, being 16, 17, I was very enthusiastic about going to any concert that I could go to. These were my third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh concerts. And so I was every chance that I got it was so exciting and not like it is today where it's kind of like, oh geez, it's a Tuesday in March and geez, I don't
2 hour
how much is
drive. It's
how much is
$50 to
parking?
My
park.
back
And
hurts.
the set list stinks, or whatever.
How much for parking?
Yeah. So this, when
Beer is how much? What?
My
when
friends
you
were just
when
arguing about
you
it
didn't know
today.
how you didn't know what they were going to play, and you were just really just excited to get to see whatever band you were going to. So 3 of the 5 shows that I saw was the one show or that Nick had mentioned earlier. It was Metallica on the Damaged Justice tour. So on my first one to relive would be March 2nd, 1989 at Stabler Arena in Allen or Lehigh. Metallica with Queensryche opening up for them. It was a great show. And again, being a 16, 17-year-old, I was so excited. It's the first time seeing Metallica. And at that time, that was my favorite band and just couldn't get enough of them. Great show from both of them. And it was a lot of fun. The next one I saw, you guys may make fun of me, but it was Rat, Britney Fox, and Kix. And but I would love to see that again. It was a lot of fun seeing that at the same venue at Stabler Arena, which holds about 3,500 or so. So Metallica playing at a 3,500 seat arena, and this was I believe at the time their first headlining tour, not by the with an opener for them. So seeing that and the ticket price was $17.50, I might add. So all these cheap shows, but the second 2 times I saw Metallica were over the summer with the Cult opening up for them. But they were the one at least was at a venue they very well may never have played again. They played it. I saw them at City Island in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a minor league baseball field, and it's actually on an island. So we were actually standing like in the dirt of the infield watching Metallica play. So it was a lot of fun. And the coolest thing, at least back then, if I remember correctly, all 3 Metallica shows they played different songs. They had a rotating set. I mean, at least that they switched out a handful of songs for each show. So very exciting. And the last one I saw was in October of '89, and this was Great White, Tesla, and Badlands, which I was very happy to see Badlands, especially now looking back on that. At the time, I already did have their album, so I was familiar with the songs, and I remember they only had 1 album, but they played 6 songs, and I remember every song that they played. I mean, they opened with Hard Driver, they played Ball and Chain, Devil's Stomp, Winter's Call, Dreams in the Dark, and gosh, now High Wire. And so all 6 of those songs, so cool to see them play, and they sounded great. And it was one of those few shows where it was like I was so pleased seeing the opener that the third band, that the other 2 bands, as well played as Great White and Tesla were in 1989. Great White was actually the headliner. I think this was one of those tours where they were supposed to switch off or so, but the show that I saw was Great White was the headliner. But both of them put on a great show. But I would love to get the opportunity to go back and see Badlands again, with all the good fond memories I have of hearing those tunes, and to get to hear them again with my old ears instead of back then with my young 17-year-old ears. So when we come back around, I just have a couple of shows that I wish I would have seen, but also both from 1989.
That's cool. You got to see Badlands. I never got to see them. I would love to be able to check them out.
Did Craig say that Metallica's did their first headline tour on Injustice for All?
What was the
Pretty
first
sure.
big one? I'm sure is what he meant.
Yeah,
We seen
or
them at
doing
the
doing like
Metal Show.
arenas or so, not
Yeah.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Master of Puppets. They came around headlining.
Yeah.
Ralph, were you at that Civic Center show? I know Steve was there with Armored Saint and Wasp.
No,
Yeah.
I have a poster for Lemoore's, the original poster of that, and I couldn't get a ride. I was like, I was 15, and a bunch of kids all jumped in the cars and stuff, and I couldn't get a ride. And
Yeah, I would have
for
took you, Ralph. I went with a car
the
full of
rest of that
people.
school year, one of them kids had either the Wasp shirt or the Ride the Lightning shirt. Like every day, I was reminded that I missed that show, and it
Yeah,
always
me too.
killed me.
Armored Saint
I
came
see.
out there all wearing the armor and stuff. It was wild. It was
They
totally
I
killed
loved
it.
Wasp even back then. I thought they were great back then. I
yeah.
wish I would have went to that.
All right, Rob.
Wow. So far, it's been a great show. I have to say, I'm going to feed off of Craig because he talked about the Stabler Arena in my year that I would wish I could go back to. And you guys probably know, because you know me, that I'm a big Priest and Maiden fan. So 1982.
Yeah.
You know, I went to a couple shows when I was younger. My first show was 78. Yes, that was my very first show. And I was what, 15 or 16. So, you know, I didn't really stuck onto a lot of shows until the 80s. And then, you know, 82 was the big year for me. 82 was a huge, huge year. So my buddy and I took a road trip down to where Craig talked about, Stabler Arena. And the rods opened up for Judas Priest. And like Craig said, it wasn't really a big place, but I remember hanging out before the show. This was back when I was partying like my head off, and everybody was cool and people doing crazy stuff out in the park. Heavy metal parking lot, exactly what it was. You seen the show? Seen that movie? That was us. And and I remember going in, and we had floor seats, but we moved up and we got like right up in the front. And you know, I mean, Priest was amazing. It was their first day, the first tour. So for me, it was pretty impressive. And then after the show was over, we were hanging out, having a couple brewskis, and this girl said to us, "You want to meet Priest?" And I started laughing. I'm like, "Yeah, right. Yeah, no, they're gonna come out. They're gonna go over there by the bus." And there they came out, and we hung out there with Priest for like an hour, talking to KK and Glenn and everything.
Awesome.
Rob only hung out for like 5 minutes, and he was gone. He didn't want to be hanging out with everybody. I don't, you know, who knows why? Maybe his voice or whatever. But so I was like, from that day on, you know, I mean, Priest is my band. So, and then the next show was later that year, October 2nd, at the Garden. Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. Now, this was my first time seeing Maiden, but seeing them opening up for Judas Priest was like, you know, and in those days, you know, I don't know about, you know, Steven, but in those days you used to go into your seats, but then you always used to move up. Back in those days, they didn't bust your chops. You used to move up, you sneak in, we always got up in the front. Don't ask me how or why, or got lucky, but that's what happened. And I ended up in the front row for that show.
Wow.
Which I got a lot of pictures for that I always post. And that's got to be probably one of the greatest shows. I mean, you know, Priest did all their great classics, including, you know, Sinner and Devil's Child and Victim of Changes, Screaming for Vengeance, you know, and then, of course, Living After Midnight, which we don't need to hear anymore. But, I mean, Manalishi, I mean, Priest and Maiden were on fire that night. That's all I remember about being such a great, great show, and the place was packed. The other band that I saw that year, which this set list, I was looking at the set list because, you know, I can't remember every song they played. I mean, you know, I can remember some stuff, but not everything. Was Rush at the Garden, December 2nd. And I'm looking at the set list and I was like, Spirit of the Radio, they open up with Tom Sawyer, Free Will, Digital Mix, Subdivisions, then Vital Signs, then The Camera Eye, abbreviated, Closer to the Heart, Chemistry, Analog Kid, The Trees, Red Barchetta, The Weapon, New World Man, Limelight, Countdown. And then for the encore, what did they do? 2112. 2112. Overture, Temples of Syrinx, Xanadu, La Villa, In the Mood, YYZ. I mean, Jesus, man.
That's a
What-
ridiculous set list.
That is a crazy set list.
For the Signals tour, no less, right? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was the Signal store. I mean, I remember I was like 10th row, and I remember that when Countdown came on with the rocket ship and everything, and the whole place was shaking. It was crazy.
I saw that tour in Hartford.
Yeah. Then the other tour, we'll go back to June. I forgot to mention this one. I didn't put them in chronological. Was June 19th, also at the Garden, was Rainbow and the Scorpions.
Wow.
So Rainbow with Joe,
It was great. I was there. That was a great show.
Yeah, that was a great show. I mean, and they did a Deep Purple song at the end and all that, and the Scorpions were great too.
Yeah.
I saw Scorpions in '84 also, but Scorpions were really good that night.
I saw that tour in Glens Falls Civic Center, Rainbow Scorpions. Yeah.
And then this one to top off on October 18th at Nassau Coliseum was King Edward. Van Halen at Nassau Coliseum.
Wow.
And that was the Diver Down tour, which was incredible. We had 4 seats, but we got really close, and I have pictures of that tour too. And I mean, yeah, the set list was good. It wasn't as good as probably I think Mean Streets was a better tour, but I mean they did Unchained, Running with the Devil, Jamie's Crying, Everybody Wants Some, Dance the Night Away, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, Ice Cream Man. Of course, Eddie did his guitar solo. Ain't Talking About Love, You Really Got Me. I mean, all the classics are there. So for me, 82 was really, really a big year. Now, the band I didn't get to see, and I never got to see, Randy, obviously, was I missed the Ozzy tour. I missed the Diary of the Mammoth tour. It was April 5th. And the next day was my birthday. So my buddy who watches this channel, Rob, he took me out and we went down to Jersey, and all I could tell you about that night was it was bad. They had to carry me out of the place.
Oh.
It was one of those nights. Yeah.
Aha.
I mean, I got messed up, and there was no way I was getting to that show the next day. But I remember it's weird because I remember seeing a band called Fair Warning. It was a Van Halen tribute band. And I think I mentioned this before. David DiPietro was in that band. I swear he was in that band. I've been trying to get in touch with him to find out if it's true, because I don't, I'm vague on that night. A couple of people told me that. So anyway, to me, that's the one I wish I could go back and and watch. And there's another one. We'll come back around and we'll talk about the other one I missed. But
Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what do you got?
All right. So yeah, I popped my concert cherry in 1986 at an Ozzy show. But yeah, there's definitely some shows I wish I could have caught earlier in the year. I did not like earlier in 1986 when I bought the Seventh Star record, and a whole bunch of my friends went to see the Seventh Star tour at the Meadowlands, and it was like in high school, and I remember like the next day, lots of kids were either wearing a Seventh Star tour shirt or a Wasp shirt.
Yeah.
Everybody said Sabbath kind of sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, all right, well that sucks. But I didn't go anyway, so I guess I didn't miss much. Well, that was Glenn Hughes, and he was all fucked up.
Yeah.
And he didn't know what to do without a bass, and he sounded shitty. And it wasn't until months later that I read in a magazine that, this kid from New York named Ray Gillen replaced Glenn Hughes. And it was sometime, I think late summer or early September, where I started to go to record collector conventions, which was great for getting bootlegs.
Yeah.
And I got this bootleg VHS of Ray Gillen fronting Sabbath on the Seven Star tour from Montreal from April 1st, 1986. I was like, holy shit, I don't know who the fuck this kid is, but he sounds great. He looks great. He was nailing all the Dio stuff and the Ozzy stuff. And I definitely much preferred hearing the live tracks from Seventh Star with him singing. So it definitely changed my mind on the record. So yeah, that was my first pick. I'm going in chronological order. I wish I could have caught that show. The next one, and this one fucking kills me because I've seen, I don't know, probably 2,000 shows, and I don't know how many countries, but I have never seen the original version of Venom. And the last time the original version of Venom ever played the New York area was April 5th and 6th, 1986. They did 2 nights at the Ritz. The first night was Overkill and Carnivore. Second night was Cro-Mags and Voivod.
That's the one.
I don't know. I would think I might pick Overkill Carnivore. But either way, I don't give a fuck. I just want to see Venom. They did record the both nights, and they put it out on their double live record, which I can't remember if it came out in 86 or 87. The Einklein Knocked Music, the double
Yeah, that was
live.
86. I pulled that
86,
out.
okay.
86.
But yeah, I wish I could have seen the original fucking lineup of Venom, and so that would definitely be my on my hit list for 86. And then the last one in 86, again in the summer. You know, I don't know if anybody else remembers, but man, I remember all the time going to the shows and seeing the posters for Rock Hotel Presents.
Yeah.
And I can't remember, was it Chris Williams, or I can't remember the name of the promoter, but it was it was like, it was always the same fucking poster. It was a black and white poster with like a shitty skull in the middle,
Yeah.
and they would just put the bands around it. And
Block letters.
yeah, this one was Rock Hotel Presents the New Music Seminar. And it was the couple bands on the bottom. I don't know who the fuck they are. The Cheetah Chrome Motherfuckers.
Yes.
Them I don't know. Rogue
Yes.
Mail. Then from there I know MDC, DOA, Nuclear Assault, and the 2 bands that absolutely I would have loved to see in '86. I saw them both after this, but it was Celtic Frost and the last ever Sam Hain show. And man, I would have loved to seen that fucking show. I was very friendly with Frank Watkins, unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, who was the bass player in Obituary and later Gorgoroth. And I remember him telling me stories about, you know, having to hitchhike and sneak out of the house to catch that show. And he's like, dude, it was the greatest show ever. So that's another show that I wish I could have caught. And those are my 3.
Cool.
I want to tell you something about those Rock Hotel shows. I was at so many of them, including the Venom one that you talk about. But they started at like 10 o'clock. They were over as soon, like past that. I mean, what is it? 4 o'clock in the morning, the bars close.
Oh, yeah.
in New York City. I would get home, change, and go to work. Like I would never even sleep.
No,
that was my life in the
were
80s.
amazing. Same with Lamore. Lamore was the same.
Well,
way.
I was going to say, and this could be a topic for a whole nother episode, but I often say, Karen, I'm glad that the few remaining rock clubs are no longer on the schedule from the 80s. Because I vividly remember going to Lamore. It was doors open at 9.
Right.
First band at 11 p.m.
11 o'clock.
Yep. And if you were lucky, it would get out. If it was an early night, you'd get out maybe like 3:30 in the morning.
Right. And then you
be back home for 5. And I didn't go to work the next day though. I was
at White
sleeping.
Castle.
Yeah, going to work. I had a few of those late nights where you went to a show and went right to work the next day, and it was never pleasant.
Yeah.
When you were, especially if you were doing some partying along with it. I can remember seeing Loudness in at Club Manhattan and going directly. This is the reason Rock Fantasy has a store. I went to see Loudness, was drinking all night. It was a hot summer day. I slept in my station wagon and Maybrook parking lot for a while out and went into the truck stop and had breakfast. My parents met me at Maybrook Flea Market, which where my stand was, and I passed out at the Maybrook Flea Market, and my mother flipped out because I'm an only kid. She was a nurse. That's it. No more flea markets. We're opening a brick and mortar store. We're going to open a store. And that was one of my, I mean, I did it several times back then. I used to do flea markets. A lot of shows were Saturday nights, and I'd go right to wherever. It could be a hot summer day, and I was probably dehydrated, and I passed out. And
So who would have
were
known
rough
that the
nights.
genesis of
Records from you
rock
at that
fantasy
flea
is based
market.
on Steve Keeler
Steve
having a
passing
horrible
out.
hangover?
Thanks, Mama Keeler.
Hangover. Yeah, thanks, Mom.
Just the
Yeah.
I remember
catalyst.
that flea market. I remember you used to
Neighbor
have
flea
like
market,
a
yeah.
wind-up van, and you would put it on the record, and it would play. through
Yeah,
the
remember
speaker.
that? My mom
Yeah.
actually used to sell those because she would do stuff at the flea markets too when she was retired. It was a
Mhm.
Volkswagen van.
Right.
That would you could actually just set a record on a table and it had a
Right.
speaker in the top of it. Wow, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I remember. I remember buying records
I
from
came
you, yeah.
across that. It's probably in the attic of this house somewhere because we used to sell them and it would drive around your
Yeah.
record and it would play the music through the top.
Wasn't the best sounding, but it was cute.
No, it definitely wasn't. It was worse
I-
than one of those Mickey Mouse little turntables, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Oh, that's too funny.
I just want to say about Venom not getting, like, the last time they're going to play, they played New York, and it's probably they're never going to probably play together again. Get your shit together. The people want to see you play. You make a good amount of cash. Just don't talk to each other. Go to your separate hotels. You know, Kronos and Mantis, you don't have to deal with one another. People want to see you. Get to your hotel, have your drinks. Don't even talk on the bus. I'm telling you, make some cash. We want it. Look at Merciful Fate. Just get your shit
They're only,
together,
they're
Venom.
only a 3-piece. They got the whole giant stage. They don't got to be 20
Yeah, they don't have to interact.
A lot of old
Yeah.
time bands who are playing together just for the money and they don't talk to each other once they walk.
Like Ingve does,
Exactly.
you know?
I wouldn't care if they don't talk to each other. Just grab your cash and make us happy. What the hell?
I
don't
got
see
3
the
separate
problem.
buses then.
Yeah,
What was that, Steve?
3 separate buses for the road.
Yeah.
they can figure it out.
I mean, we got Gilmore and Waters. It's not going to happen either. So.
The
No.
Ramones hated each other and traveled in a little van all
Yeah.
over the place. And that's the truth.
All right, so I chose the first year I started going to shows, and I didn't see a lot of shows in 1981, but I wanted to relive a couple of them and then go to a couple that I missed. So let's start off May 3rd, 1981 at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center. Ozzy Osbourne and Motorhead.
Yeah.
Yep, that was
First
it.
show I ever saw. What a show to go to for the first show, right? Yeah. I want to relive that because, you know, Chris Allo gave me the olds a number of years ago.
Wait, I gave it?
You
I
gave me
gave
the
you
olds.
the
Yeah, it
olds?
was all your
Yep.
fault, Aloe.
Yep. And I'm older than
Jump
you,
behind
but
us.
you gave them to me. And, you know, my memory of some of these shows is not as good as I'd like it to be. I remember like certain things, but I want to really remember, you know, I mean, this is, you know, Ozzy and Randy on Blizzard of Oz tour. This is Motorhead on what was this? Ace of Spades.
It was
tour.
Iron Fist, I believe.
that?
81. Wasn't that the Iron Fist tour?
Maybe it was Iron Fist. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe it was
Iron Fist is 82. So
Oh, all right.
I thought
Okay.
it was Ace of Spades.
Ace of
Ace of
Spades.
Spades.
It's just,
Anyhow,
well, that was 80, wasn't it? Came out in 80, though.
80. So yeah, so they're probably still kind of,
doing
yeah.
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
But I want to relive that. I think that would be fun to go to again. I also want to relive May 18th, 1981, Rush at Madison Square Garden on the Moving Pictures tour. I want to see that again. Why no? Who wouldn't want to see that again?
I would love to see that.
And then while I'm at it, I also want to go back in December 21st and the 22nd. I'll go to both nights. I only saw one of them. Brendan Byrne Arena doing the Exit Stage Left tour at that point.
wow.
So those are the 3 that I went to that I want to relive, and they were all amazing. But again, my memory is kind of clouded of them. I want to go experience them all over again. So how about what I missed that year? Well, July 17th at the Garden, I'd like to go see classic Van Halen on the Fair Warning tour. Why not? Because I've never seen the David Lee Roth version of the band ever.
Aw.
So yeah, I know. So that would be, I think, would be really, really cool. I would also like to go see AC/DC December 2nd at the Garden for those about to rock tour. They're on top of the
There.
world. Why not?
I didn't hear for 3 days, Pete.
What's that?
Exactly. Huh? That was me for 3 days. I couldn't
That
hear.
loud, huh? Yeah.
Oh, I was
Wow.
before earplugs.
Yeah. Well, we were kids. We wore earplugs back
Who,
then.
who knew?
I know.
Nobody wore earplugs.
Nobody
back then.
did.
No.
We didn't have the olds yet.
Not
Stood
at
next
all.
to the stage too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the cannons and everything. I mean,
Yep. That's what did it.
I also really, really would like to go back in time to July, any one of them, July 21st through the 24th at the Palladium, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, Killer's Point of Entry. That would be pretty damn cool. And while I'm at it, I hated him back in the day, so I would have never gone back in 1981. But old me now says, Pete, you're going to go to see the Rolling Stones at the Garden on the Tattoo You tour,
Yeah.
12th and 13th. Just got to do it because that's, you want to go see the Stones back in either the 70s or the very early 80s. So
Take
those are
you with-
mine. Going to relive 1981, my first year.
Nice.
Very
Cool.
cool.
All right. So anybody got like a show or two they want to
Yeah, I guess
Steve?
if I'm gonna revisit one more, I'd go to Hemispheres tour at the Civic Center for Rush. I want to mention that I saw that Maiden Priest tour, but I saw it in Allentown at the Allentown Fairgrounds.
okay.
I saw
Because
that. Very
Oh,
you know,
where they have Pinfest?
Yeah, right in Pinfest. You know where that big stadium is?
Yeah.
That they used to have a lot of. They still have concerts there during the fair. It's very much
Oh.
like the Orange County Fair Speedway grandstand, and it was Maiden, Joe Perry Project, and Judas Priest. It
Wow.
was weird that the Joe Perry Project was thrown in there
In the middle, right?
in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
It
you
was like something that
serious?
promoters would do back then. Hey, we're going to throw Joe Perry because of the power of Aerosmith.
In the middle?
It was in the middle. And then I also caught the AC/DC for those about to rock tour at the Glens Falls Civic Center. So I would go back to Rush Hemispheres. I'd also, if I had a time capsule, I'd love to see Jethro Tull in the early 70s. Never saw Tull. And I love watching videos of how crazy Ian Anderson was on stage and bizarre, and just love it. So, hey, I want to say something here. I had a couple people come to the store that are huge fans of the show. They happened to be in Middletown. They were racing motocross. The family was, and the husband's name is Eric Alexander, and he's wondering if we could give a shout out. So, Eric, big fan of the show. Here's your shout out, and hope you're watching tonight, and thanks for you guys to stop by Rock Fantasy.
What's up, Eric? Thanks for
Hey,
being
Eric.
a great fan.
Keep watching.
Nice. Ralph, what do you got left?
All right. First, I want to just make a comment on your picks, Pete. Is out like how you were saying you have little like images of that Ozzy Motorhead, and like today these kids they don't know how lucky they are because like every show is up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, the next
Oh, I
day.
know. I
Yeah.
know.
100%. Yeah.
You would have those memories. You would have the image that would last forever. I mean, if you were lucky, maybe the band did an official VHS back in the day. Like I've seen Last in Line tour, but then Dio put out a actual concert VHS. I always have the memory from that VHS more than my own memory of it. But I just wanted to make a comment how these kids.
And the older we get, those memories keep fading, right? So, like
Sometimes, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example. So the Ozzy Motorhead show for me, really, and I was in like the 8th row, right? And I was in front of Randy during Ozzy's set, and I was in front of Lemmy during Motorhead set. Really, all I remember is like this image of Lemmy sitting there with a microphone up and him just, playing the bass. And I remember like Randy with the polka dot Flying V, and I remember him doing a solo for Suicide Solution. But like, I don't remember anything of Ozzy. I don't remember anything about the rest of the band. Really,
I agree.
Nothing.
My memory of that show is it's a long day because my neighbor Carl at the time and my wife all went. We went to New Paltz first because New Paltz used to have SUNY New Paltz, which is a college here in New York State, used to have a spring fest.
Oh, that was spring weekend. That's right.
That was the same day. Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush.
Yep.
Were
Stevie Ray
playing
Vaughan played.
there.
Stevie Ray Vaughan
And
played.
Stevie Ray Vaughan was there. I think maybe even Joan Jett was there. So we were out in the sun all day drinking beer. I still remember me and my old neighbor lugging a cooler down the hill. Then we went off to Poughkeepsie. I mean, we were a little worn out already. What my memory of that show wasn't as much the concert as Motorhead coming on and people looking at each other like, what the fuck is this? And like and standing on those plastic chairs.
Yep, everybody was standing
because no one was sitting and no one was standing in front. They were standing on those chairs for the whole set.
Yep.
So, and now I'll shut up with
I do remember we stood the entire show. I do remember that. Yep. That's great.
And I remember the T-shirt because it had the United States on the back and it had the little crosses for the Ozzy Osbourne, the Blizzard of Oz shirt. From that tour.
Yep.
Yep.
I wish I still had mine. Yeah. Oh well. All right, Ralph. Sorry.
Even just like taking pictures at shows helps you remember it too, because now you got a single image from a show. But I didn't start bringing fun savers to shows to like the mid to late 80s. You know, you'd have to lunk around a big Polaroid camera back in the 80s, you know, but
Yeah.
so you don't even have pictures of like it's hard to remember who you even went with because there's no pictures from the night. Now it's like everything's documented. But all right, so Kiss in 1977, they do Kiss Alive 2. They changed their outfits. To me, it's like the prime of seeing Kiss. When you see video from that tour and stuff, they did 3 nights in California where they recorded the Alive 2 album. But you could pick like 3 different tours from 77. Most of the year was Cheap Trick, but you could have also seen him with Uriah Heep, or you could have seen him with Sammy Hagar. So I would have liked to quote it with Uriah Heep if I could pick out of those 3. But the other one is the Ramones, like Karen had, is they played on New Year's Eve, the last day
New Year's Eve, yep.
They played in London, and the important thing about the show is that it was the last time Tommy played with him, so it was the original 4 guys in the lineup for the last time, and it was a good way to close out the year for that year. Yeah, and that show actually got made into an album called "It's Alive" too, so that's a cool thing. And that was it.
That show is also on YouTube if anybody wants to see it. It's so great. I mean, if you don't feel anything watching that video, I don't know. I don't know about you. I'm suspicious. So it's a great video.
The Ramones show that you picked, Karen, I believe that's the show where Sex Pistols, Clash, and the Damned were all backstage as little kids. And by the end of the year, they all had bands because the Ramones came through and changed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it
was a huge scene in that one year. For the next year, it became like the Ramones went there as like big band, you know.
They kicked it off. Mm-hmm.
Nick, you got any left?
Well, I said too many before, but
No, you didn't.
1988, Morbid Angel. I would have given anything to see them live.
Oh, yeah.
88, just starting out hungry. Crazy. That would have been sick. So that's it.
I remember they played in New Jersey someplace, and 2 of my friends from Morpheus Descends went down to the show, and they had just kind of broken 88. So I didn't get to see them. They came on to the Chance in 89 on the Blessed Are the Sick tour, and Primeval and Morpheus got to open for them. But the 88, I wanted to see on that show.
89 would have been the Altars of Madness tour. That's really early. Because Blessed Are the Sick came out in 91.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
Wow.
So that's real.
So
really,
when you said 88, what
they would have they played, they just didn't, they had not officially released Altars of Madness yet. But so
I thought that was 88.
Early. They had a lot of that material, you know, they carried it forth. They actually had
Abomination.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And some of the songs that appeared on Blessed Are the Sick, they had before that. So that would have been a really raw time to see them, you know, in a small club.
Yeah, I think they only played one time in the area on the Altars of Madness that I heard and I remembered, but they could have come back again. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been sick.
Cool. All right, Karen.
Yeah, I went to All Tomorrow's Parties in 2009 at Kutcher's, and I had a great time. I saw some amazing bands and very experimental bands, film festival, comedians, all that stuff. The following year, I didn't go, for whatever reason, and I really, really wish I did. Kutcher's was a great place to have this festival. It was like 2 or 3 days, but I snoozed on it. And I missed Sun O and Boris playing a set together. I missed the Black Angels, whom I love. And I missed Sleep. Okay. Sleep played one. I mean, they never were touring. They didn't have an album to support. Sleep played All Tomorrow's Parties in Monticello at the old Kutcher's in the Borscht Belt and the Catskills. And I'm a dummy and I didn't go. And if I want to relive a concert, I want to relive November 2022, Merciful Fate and Creator. We were almost all of us were there. We had a great time. it's the most fun I had at a concert in a long, long time. Made new friends, saw new friends, old friends. It was great. And I just wish we could do it again. It was great. What a great vibe that show was.
I'm not doing that fucking drive again, Pete. No fucking way.
We'll get you a teleportation device.
Yeah, if we take a helicopter or something there, I'll go.
That's it.
Yeah.
You could have came to the you could have came to the show that Ryan
The subway.
Steve was in the
I was
VIP
at-
section.
I did the
in,
double. I did the double.
and Philadelphia.
All you gotta do is just have them drop you off. That's what I did.
I'm over.
Well, I would love to relive the show again because that was a
Yeah,
lot.
the show was great. It's just the trip, the 4.5 hour drive one way was fucking.
I'll
brutal.
go to the Fillmore any day.
I'll go to
King's
Philly.
Theater.
Yeah, I'll go to Philly.
Yeah,
Love
Phil-
Fillmore.
Philadelphia. Nah.
I
We're all
got
Eagles fans down there. I got no time for that.
come on, the venues, the Fillmore and Brooklyn Bowl are the two of the coolest venues I've ever been to.
I do like the film.
Who cares about the Philadelphia? Who cares about the sports? It's Philly, man. Cheesesteaks. It's fun
I've been
time.
there.
I'd rather go drive to Philly than New York City myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great metal scene down there for sure.
I hate New York City.
Don't worry about the Flyers and the Eagles and all that. stuff.
I don't care about the Flyers, the Eagles. I hate them.
My team
offense
sucks
to our
worse than
Philly
home.
viewers,
Dude.
but
And you were talking
Those
about
fight
Cusher,
words,
you were
Karen.
talking about Cusher's Country Club, which is in the old Catskills, right?
I never knew they
yeah,
had.
well,
any
they
music,
had
like
they
hard
were
heavy music
using
there.
it for like they still had their golf course and they were having like conventions and stuff there, and it wasn't really being booked
Was
as
that-
a
was
resort
that-
anymore.
What was that in Ellenville? No, that was
No, it was in Monticello.
Monticello. I do remember going to the Concord for some kind of
Mhm.
punk and metal fest once, but boy, all those things are gone.
Yeah, and they stopped doing it there. They moved it to Jersey, and then they went to New York
Oh.
City for a minute. But the ceilings were falling down.
Oh
and-
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure
the
they were.
rooms were just so disheveled. But like I saw the Flaming Lips at
Wow.
a very small like theater. You know how they used to have like those entertainment theaters and people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw the Flaming Lips in there. I saw the Boredoms. The Boredoms come in with like 9 drummers, and that's small for them, and all they are percussion. And the main drummer, like these 8 drummers are going crazy on the stage, and then they have this, I don't know what, this drummer was on like some kind of, I don't know, like he was being pushed onto the stage like some kind of like, I don't know what it was, like a track or something, but he was in the air and he like landed on the stage, and it was nuts. It was one of the best things I ever saw in my life. And I was like, oh, I'm going back next year. And I totally snoozed on it. I met Jim Jarmusch. I saw the film festival. It was really cool. And now it's never coming back. Not here. So
Nope. No.
that was a dummy.
Cool stuff.
I got one thing to say about that Kiss Alive 2 tour. It was $750 for a ticket to get into the show.
Wow.
And me and Aloe and Karen were down at Irving Plaza on Saturday night for Dark Angel and Whiplash. It was $16 for a Pabst Blue Ribbon at that show. For one beer, it cost more than 2 tickets to go see Kiss in '77.
$53 to see that show.
Wow.
$16 for a
I
PVR.
lucked out. I got the Live Nation sale, and I got
Oh,
my
yeah?
Dark Angel tickets were only $25 all in.
So
Yeah,
it was
but-
$16 for a tall boy?
Yeah, for one beer, one tall.
Really? I don't remember Irving being that expensive. It was just there for Enslaved not too long ago.
Welcome to New York
Most
City.
Yeah,
tickets,
I was just
in,
gonna
most
say,
tickets
welcome
in
to
the
New York
80s
City.
were like $17.50 to $20.
Yeah.
How about UBS Arena, Chris? It's real
Oh.
cheap there.
$9 for one bottle of water.
Oh man, that's
$15 for a Carvel ice
Should be-
cream
should be-
sandwich.
It should be
Well, that's worse than the garden.
$19.99 for a tall boy beer.
yeah, that's,
Oh.
that's,
buy
that's
3 cases for $9.
Yeah.
yeah.
Crazy.
You know, you understand you're going to pay a little more, but yeah,
A little.
bend over, guys. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And they want you to
Yeah.
tip them. They get like when you.
I know, right?
That's the funny
One
part.
thing to tip how many percent you want to tip. It's like holy shit.
So they want
Yeah.
5 on
Yeah.
a $20
And don't forget your credit card because nobody takes fucking cash anymore.
And you know what's messed up? Because I went to see
Gramercy does.
I saw the winery dogs at Ridgefield, and I think water was only $5 or $4.
Wow, what a
Holy-
bargain.
Steal.
No, wow, what a
It's
bargain.
only it's a 500 seat venue. That's it. you want these big
Liquid
venues,
Death,
it's not
probably Liquid
double
Death is
price.
probably $10 waters right now.
Yeah.
The
crazy.
fancy can of water is $10.
Craig, you got any left?
Yeah, just the two. Back in 1989, MTV did a Headbangers Ball tour, and on May the 3rd of '89, it came to the Tower Theater in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. So it would have been cool to see. This was Anthrax touring State of Euphoria, Exodus touring Fabulous Disaster, and Halloween touring Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 2. So that would have been a cool show to see. And the other one was from June 9th of '89. It was Black Sabbath, also at the Tower Theater, with openers Kingdom Come and Silent Rage. I had to wait another 5 years to see Black Sabbath, ironically, at the same venue at the Tower Theater, but it was a way better lineup. It was they were touring Cross Purposes, and the openers were Motorhead touring the Bastards album and Morbid Angel.
Wow.
So that was a really good show to see in February of '94 that I got to see that. So those
I saw all three of those.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, that Headbangers Ball tour at the came to Poughkeepsie. That was quite
Civic Center. I was at that. I had
Yeah, it was a hot
backstage
one.
passes. I still remember like Halloween standing in the corner, just hanging out by themselves. Anthrax had some kind of hip hop party in the back, and they were running and sliding on like slip and slides. It was like it was kind of weird. And that Black Sabbath at the Civic Center. I'm sure Al was there for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have my
Great going down memory lane on this episode, guys.
Yeah.
You're right though, Steve. The Halloween guys were just kind of hanging out in the crowd. I mean, they signed my ticket stub, and I was talking to them for a while. They were just like,
I still have the autographed album from that hanging at Rock Fantasy from Keeper of the Seven Keys with my old Rock Fantasy sticker on it. Yeah.
nice.
I had sell Halloween a couple weeks ago. What a great show that was. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're always good.
That's killer with all three singers, and Kai doing Gorgar and all the stuff, a lot of stuff from Walls of Jericho.
You got a soft spot for Gorgar. That's for damn.
Oh, and great. They really gave it good credit. They had a Halloween Gorgar, not a Gorgar, but a Halloween pinball machine on the screen while they were playing.
Oh, that's awesome.
It looked like it could have been the new Stern. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Should be the new Stern.
Yeah. Well,
I forgot one show from '77 that I wanted to mention was Pink Floyd played the Garden on the 4th of July. Animals tour. They played Wish You Were Here in its entirety, and it was the last tour that they played the Animal songs with the original lineup.
that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I would have
Yeah,
loved to
right
do
on.
that. Yeah.
Well,
Rob,
at least
you
we
got any
got-
left?
Yeah, I just want to say there's three things real quick. 77 Zeppelin for me because I never got to see Zeppelin, one of my favorite bands, and and I think I told a story a couple of weeks ago about how we were going to go see them on the tour when John Bonham passed away. So I wish I could go back in time and go to that show. The other show that I remember, and it was right after 9/11. It was one of the first shows I went back to after 9/11, and that was 2001. It was October 27th, and it was at the Chance, and it was Typo Negative. And that show was off the chain.
Wow.
I remember it's the only time I ever got to see Typo, and they were incredible. I remember people throwing toilet paper rolls around and everything. It was crazy. It was because it was right before Halloween, so everybody was, it was incredible. I was like standing right on the Pete, and so I wish I could go back to that. We lost Pete, and that's still one of my favorite bands too, Typo. Also, the other show I'd love to go back to was 1980, seeing AC/DC at the Palladium with Def Leppard opening, when Def Leppard was actually a heavy metal band, the first two albums. That show was incredible. I was 18 years old, and I just remember it being hot. They had to open up the doors and everything, and I remember, I'll never forget the guy pulling Angus off the stage, and Angus starting to beat the shit out of him, and it was great. It was great, and something about that show. I always remember as soon as it opened and you saw the bell. I was just, because I had no idea what was happening. Like it was pre-internet. We didn't know what was going to happen at a show, and it was awesome. It's one of my favorite shows I've ever been to was the 1980.
Oh.
Chris, you got any left?
Only one since I was in 1986. I have the years ago I bought the audio cassette of Dio at the Garden in '86 with Accept opening. I have the bootleg tape, and man, the whole tape is just M80s fucking getting blown off. But yeah, I would have liked to seen that tour. The Sacred Heart tour at the Garden.
There was something about the late 70s and the early 80s where people thought bringing M80s and fireworks to concerts was something
Pre-show.
cool.
The Defender show was like that. It was insane. Insanity. Anybody of my age that went to that show, were you at that show, Steve?
Which one?
At the pre-show when they tore the seats out.
I was there.
Yeah, at the Meadowlands.
I
was
heard
there.
about that.
That
They
was
got
crazy.
them banned.
I felt like I was at war.
That was
over
at
my
the-
head. The
that
enemies
was-
were flying over my head, and
Was-
yeah, it was crazy, man.
Wait a
It
minute. Was that? Were you talking about the Garden?
why they got
or the
banned.
Meadowlands.
Yeah, they got banned at the Garden for that.
No,
Well,
it's the
I
Garden.
was I wasn't at the Garden. I was at the Meadowlands one where I think Pete was there too. I wasn't at Maiden when they rioted outside after. And then
Oh, that-
Ozzy,
That was
Ozzy,
March of
Somewhere in
'87.
when
80s,
Ozzy played there, they were ripping the seat cushions out and
Yep.
throwing the cushions all around. And Ozzy's like, "Let's go crazy!" Of course. you know.
Now we get frisked. Literally, when I went to Irving Plaza to see Dark Angel, they patted me down. They confiscated Jay's spikes. I mean,
Oh
like,
yeah.
now it's like I'm
Well-
entering a jail or something. I
Well,
got to
now,
check me
now
out.
it's safe. Back in the day, people had US2s in the stands at the Meadowlands, and I remember going to Pocono Downs Jam, which was early like festival up in Wilkes-Barre, and literally there were fireworks being thrown. My buddy and glass bottles being rained down upon the crowd, broken glass everywhere.
Good old
Karen,
days.
I love the
Karen-
element of danger. That
Karen
sounds
thinks
like
it's
so
fun.
much
Nick, your
fun.
mother was right.
She was,
Yeah,
Nick.
Mom
She's
was right.
absolutely right.
Especially
Karen,
back in those days.
I remember going to Wacken in 2008 in Germany.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Our campsite was like a quarter of a mile from the doors. It was a long walk to the
Wow.
gates.
Mhm.
And I remember I had a bullet belt. And I'm in Germany with a bullet belt. And I get up to be let in, to go in. And the guy's like, nine points to the bullet belt.
No.
I'm like, what? And he's like, no. I'm like, these aren't real, right? No. So I had to
No.
like walk a quarter of a mile back.
Well, no.
Do you know what it's like to be in Germany, the birthplace of the bullet belt, and to be told you can't go into
Not
a
gonna work.
festival with your fucking bullet belt and have to
But yet they were
Yeah.
selling them at the metal market at Wacken because you
Yeah,
could
Sure,
so
but
they-
you sell. You can sell
Yeah.
it, but you can't wear it.
Yeah, so I had to go all the way back and come all the way back.
Crazy.
Well, things change a lot with security at concerts after you look at what things like happened to Dimebag and stuff like that. It's a different world than it was back then,
It
but
is,
Yeah.
it was like barbaric back in those days for sure.
Yeah.
Metal shows are pretty tame now compared to back in the
Well, everybody's so fucking old now.
There's still a lot of young kids at those shows, though. The mosh pits are pretty freaking heavy.
Yeah,
that
and
I
all
go
the
to.
deathcore shows and stuff.
I mean, I was just at the most extreme,
Mosh
probably
pit
the
stopped
most
in the
extreme
90s
metal fest in
for
the
me.
world. At
And what was that like? What was the age group?
Polite. It
Polite?
varied from early 20s to all of your ages and
Mhm.
my age, your age. And no, I mean it's the most extreme bands, the most crazy fucking
Mhm.
sounds on stage, but everybody is super polite. And there was a few mosh
It's
pits.
Europe.
I like
Yeah.
that.
I mean, all the European fests.
You were
man, so much more
safer than a
organized.
baby in a nursery. Let me tell you, there was nothing bad was going to happen. Wonderful thing, wonderful show.
Nice.
Couple mosh pits, but everybody was super polite.
I mean, that's there's a lot of young kids into the scene now. It's not just us old.
That's
timers
true.
anymore.
That is
It
true.
is true. I did see a couple of youngins at Dark Angel, which I was kind of surprised about.
I saw a bunch of tours recently, and there's a ton of young kids out at metal shows. We saw Immolation and Obituary down in Brooklyn Bowl in Philly. I mean, there was That was
Despite all
crazy.
the modern, all the substitutes for experience that
Mhm.
technology has created now, I still think that even with the young kids, I still think that experiencing a band playing their instruments live in front of you,
Mhm.
there is never going to be a substitute for that.
Nope. You're right on the money there, Nick.
Even if it's only 10% of the population or less that actually wants to do it, I don't think it'll go away.
Oh, it's never going away. It's never going away because it might not be as many people, but there's still people who are into it. There's still younger people playing music. There's,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I mean, it's artistic expression. And if you're human and you're going to express yourself, some people do it with music. It's never going to go away.
And you know what? I see a lot of young people on YouTube playing guitar and playing bass.
Oh, yeah.
I follow a lot of young people, believe it or not, and playing music. And I got to tell you, there's still a lot of people out there, a lot of young people that really love music.
Well,
And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about the kind of music we like and stuff too. You know, the
I mean,
heavy
look at
metal,
all, there's a
rock.
lot of young bands around. I mean, there's tons of them around. I mean, look at some of the bands we have at the bowling alleys. It's 18, 19-year-old kids playing metal.
Yeah.
What about a band like Century?
Brutality or Skulovich from Philadelphia that comes up, and Festergo are all young kids.
Yeah.
But
And I'll take us out with one show that I would love to revisit just one more time. Go back to very early 1985. It was, I think, early February. I forget the exact date, but it was freezing cold in New York City. And I was heading with my then girlfriend and a couple of other friends to Radio City Music Hall to see Iron Maiden on the Power Slave tour.
I saw that show. Oh my God.
Queensryche opening up. Yeah, that was a spectacle.
Oh, what a spectacle indeed. And I saw standing online to get in, I saw Dom DeLuise. Like he had a one-man show.
DeLuise.
Yeah, because it was a Radio City and the theaters
That's
are not
so
too
cool.
far. And we were standing in line. We're like, oh my God, Dom DeLuise. He's like, hey kids, enjoy the show. It just like made everything even better. What a great show that was.
It was. I mean, that was one of the greatest like set designs.
Oh my God.
It was just so cool, man. It was just
on that stage, the way that venue, it was amazing. It was a spectacle. It really, really was.
I used to pour over the Live After Death CD and just every page and just look at all the pictures and say, I wish I was there.
So Nick Chris always has been telling me for years how he wishes he could climb into my brain and get whatever images of the Black Sabbath Mob Rules show at Brendan Byrne Arena. So I'll let you come in and revisit whatever.
I get first
in
info. I'm getting that Mob Rules, getting those Mob Rules memories.
There you go.
What a great show. Oh my God, Pete, I'm so glad you brought that up. That
was a good one. That was a good one. So,
my dad
I
took
remember
me
how
to that.
it was so cold in the city, man. Windy and cold. We went to a liquor store and we bought like a little bottle of blackberry brandy. We were just walking around the streets and in the alleyways, just trying to do anything to keep warm. It was just terrible.
That was the typical one, the blackberry brandy. Yeah.
I know, it was awful. It was so sweet, just burned. And it was like that, but whatever. What did we know? We were kids.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you have it, everybody. Thanks for watching another episode of the Hudson Valley Squares. So I'm going to spill the beans right now. Most of you, they don't even know this, but 2 weeks from today, we're going to take one of Ralph's ideas for our next topic. Go back to the year you were born.
Oh,
what were your favorite 5 albums from that year?
Shit,
I was born.
I'm too old. I'm definitely too old to participate in that one.
Hey, Steve, did they have music when we were born?
Yeah, they did. They did.
Listen,
Rocks, banging rocks.
How the hell? How am I going to pick 5 favorite albums from 1960?
Come on, Steve.
There's no way possible.
Sure,
I
there's
think of a couple
early
albums.
rock and roll stuff, soul, R&B.
Oh, there's a lot of
60?
good stuff out there.
Yeah.
Perry Como.
I don't have 5 favorite albums from
I like
1960.
I'll tell you what, 5 favorite albums or 5 favorite songs, whatever you want to do, or a combination of the two.
For Keeler, it's Bach, Mozart.
Yeah, something like that.
I already know what mine going to be.
Perry Como, maybe.
I know my favorite.
I'll cheat. I'll cheat. Maybe I'll do when I was 5 or something. I'll cheat if I show
You
up.
always cheat.
You
No,
always
you
cheat.
got to stick to it.
I can't say shit because I fucked up.
You're ruining Ralph's idea.
Yeah, I am sorry, Ralph.
There you go. So for those of you watching, get your list ready. So take your birth year, pick your 5 favorite albums or 5 favorite songs, whatever you want to do. And join us in 2 weeks here on the Hudson Valley Squares. But in the meantime, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together.
All the
All
damn
the
time.
damn
God.
Stay
time.
tuned this week. Karen and I are coming back at you for All About the Fuzz. That's coming up in just a couple days, and we got
Yep.
more stuff happening all week. So tune in. And for Karen LaPreziosa, and for Nick Franco, and Craig Kaminsky, and Rob Lasante, Chris Allo, Count Ralphus, Rob Tambora, and Steve Keeler, IMP Pardo. Have a good one, everybody. See you soon. Bye bye.